Now, Penn State might be favored against Iowa in a majority of these head-to-head matchups, but they're still going to be tightly contested, whether it's Mesenbrink and Caliendo, Real Woods versus Beau Bartlett, Drake Ayala versus Braeden Davis. How about we break them all down one by one in depth on this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions?
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is right, Penn State fans. You are Locked On Nittany Lions. Thanks so much for making us your first listen and watch every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Zach Seyko, bringing you all things Penn State sports coverage, and we welcome him back, the voice of Penn State wrestling. Also, the voice, one of the voices over at 98.7 FM, Fox Sports in-state college, live and local sports talk in the Happy Valley area. That is Jeff Byers. You can check out their website, 987thefox.com, if you want to stream them and listen to them. Of course, you can listen to this dual meet coming up on Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern time on GoPSUSports.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We are talking Penn State versus Iowa, a full dual meet preview, our favorite matches, predictions at the top of the show, and then going through why we think this one will unfold the way it is. Jeff, thanks so much for the time again. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah, this is always a fun week of the season, regardless of the circumstances or how both teams are doing. This is a dual meet that just seems to get the fans cranked up, and I think the coaches and wrestlers get excited as well.
Remember, you can keep up with Locked On Nittany Lions as well if you're not an everydayer. Become one, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest discussions, analysis around your favorite Penn State sports, truly talking about all of them. Penn State versus Iowa. This one went in favor of the Nittany Lions. Now, Iowa clearly has dominated the historical long series, with Penn State getting the victory last year, 23-14, and now in a position to really make Iowa, not, I don't know if I want to say embarrassed, but they have like Ohio State have a potential, I would say, guaranteed about 7 wins in this dual meet, with the ideally could win 8 or 9, with the potential to have the chance to sweep all 10. Now, there's going to be some difficult ones, some 1 versus 2 matchups that we're going to talk about again. But Jeff, when you look at all 10 bouts, how many in your mind does Penn State win?
Well, listen, I mean, I do think that Penn State goes in, I think, thinking it can win all 10 bouts, and I think rightfully so. I mean, when you look at the rankings, and that's dangerous to do, to get caught up in the rankings, but the only weight where Iowa has the higher ranked wrestler, I believe, is at 165, and that is where Michael Caliendo is number 6. And virtually everybody who follows college wrestling tells you Mitchell Messenbrink is ranked too low at number 7. At every other weight, Penn State has the higher ranked wrestler as of this week. And so, yeah, I mean, Penn State is it conceivable Penn State could win all 10? Yeah, I mean, it's within the realm of possibility. In my mind, I think there's more like 6 or 7 that Penn State is favored in, and then 3 or 4 that are more in the toss-up category, where I don't think it would be surprising either way. Obviously, if Penn State can sweep the toss-ups, then they could have an historically great night at Carver Hawkeye Arena.
Well, I would say the core 4 of them, and if you're watching the show, you can see that up on the graphic here on the panel, but Messenbrink and Caliendo, as you mentioned, Haynes and Franek, since Franek was in some rankings is number 2, or was the number 2 wrestler against Michigan, is now dropped to 5 at 157. Bartlett versus Woods, instead of it being Woods number 1 and Bartlett number 2, it's now flipped because Bartlett beat Mendez and Woods just got crushed. We're going to discuss that more. And then Davis, a very true test against Ayala here. And there's, of course, other best matchups. And I'm intrigued to see how they're going to use Gabe Arnold down at 174 or 184, because if you look at the match notes for Iowa, they don't exactly have him slotted in one spot one way or the other. They're anticipating that Patrick Kennedy is going to be at 174. So we'll see what Iowa and Coach Brands decide to do. I think it's fitting to start with Messenbrink since we mentioned him. This one, I think, just because we started off with Beau Bartlett versus Jesse Mendez the last time around, let's start with one different and go to Mesenbrink and Caliendo at 165, because personally, Jeff, this is the one that I am most excited for. This is, I think, a turning point for Mesenbrink because we finally figure out just how good he is. Now, we got a glimpse of it in that weekend over in Michigan. You saw it up close and personal, but the way that he was able to win against top-ranked wrestlers for both the Spartans and the Wolverines when he was still being underestimated, and I think to an extent he still is. He's one of the 3 best wrestlers in this weight class, and Caliendo is another chance to prove to the entire college wrestling universe, or wrestling universe in general, that he belongs in the conversation of getting to the semifinals at 165 at a minimum.
Yeah, I think this is a really good test, and especially on the road for Mitchell Mesenbrink. Michael Caliendo is a really good wrestler, returning All-American, took 7th last year, and is just solid, really good in all 3 positions. And so I do think, this is another kind of stepping stone, if you will, for Mitchell Mesenbrink. And, Caliendo is certainly dangerous enough that he's capable of beating Mesenbrink if Mesenbrink's not on top of his game. But, Mitchell has been really, really consistent since coming to Penn State. And, yeah, I do think he is one of the elite guys there at 165. But, listen, you're going to find out, and, the Intermat folks and some others have said, listen, we hear you, Penn State fans who think Mesenbrink is ranked too lowly. But he'll have a chance to prove it here in February and then obviously in March. And, this is a chance for him to prove that certainly he should be higher than the number 7 ranking. He'll take on the guy right in front of him. I think it's an intriguing matchup. I think it'll be a good test. I do think Mitchell Mesenbrink, even though he's ranked lower, is in most people's minds the favorite going into this bout.
I mean, I would like Messenbrink to think that he would win this one. However, just watching his specific bout against his counterpart for Ohio State, Messenbrink, we all know this. This isn't rocket science. Just if you're a casual fan or if you're a diehard wrestling fan or you're an expert, you've wrestled in the sport. Messenbrink is much better on his feet. We know this, and the 3-point takedown has benefited him specifically significantly. Now, when he was on bottom, I don't know if there was a different type of game plan. Maybe the coaches told him one thing just to kind of get through the bout, and maybe has some more aces up his sleeve. But when he was on bottom, it felt like the Ohio State opponent had a little too much control of him. Are there any concerns if Caliendo is able to get a hold of him and essentially ride him out for 3 periods? Is there any questions about that, Jeff?
I don't really think so. I think that was a good, feel for Mesenbrink to get at this stage of the season. He is a really high wrestling IQ guy, and I think he will very quickly make some adjustments in his game, working with Casey Cunningham in particular, but with the coaching staff as a whole. And Caliendo is good on top, but I think is also a guy that is looking to create his points from the neutral position. And Mesenbrink has scored a ton on the mat this season. I mean, that was really the first time we saw him, give up any significant time to a top guy. So I don't think it's a grave concern at this stage. Now, if we get a couple more matches in here in February where guys are riding him, then yes, I'll concede that is a concern, a point of concern going into the postseason. But I think one bout for a couple of periods of time, that in and of itself, to me, does not raise a red flag, and especially with Mesenbrink's ability to make quick adjustments and to be able to improve his game in short order.
There's still a lot of other good bouts in this duel meet. Haynes versus Franek, Bartlett versus Woods, a revenge opportunity for Beau Bartlett, and Davis versus Ayala. Plus, what's going to happen at 174, 184? That's all still to come here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. You got to download the Gametime app because Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for everything: sports, music, comedy, theater events near you. And right now, all users are getting $100 off when they buy a big game ticket with code VEGAS100. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from the seat, and the best price guaranteed, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. I've used the Gametime app myself. You got to download it. You get last minute tickets, and then you get flash deals. So you already get tickets last second, but then you're getting discounts on those tickets. It's easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They're already sorted for you, so there's no searching around for what events are in your area, and then views from all the seats at the venue. So there's no second guessing. What's the point of you going to be? Ahead of time before you go to your event. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase with the lowest price guarantee and event cancellation protection. And they're obsessed with finding you ways to save money on your tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. And right now, Gametime users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. That is Vegas100. Terms apply. Just download the Gametime app. Use code Vegas100, VEGAS 100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, you can use promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Get a download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And the Locked On Podcast Network is making history. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering each and every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And remember, you can check out the work that Jeff does outside of his wrestling coverage. Fox Sports 98.7. You want to check out the website and stream them, 987thefox.com. High-profile matchups outside of just, focusing on Messenbrink Caliendo, because I think that one has at least the strongest ramifications from a win or a loss here. If Bartlett loses to Woods, for example, it's not going to be, he's going to fall, or there's not going to be big question marks around his game, because then I know the conversation is going to change. If Messenbrink loses, then some people might say, he was overrated to begin with. Besides the point, let's continue to focus on some of these other key matchups. And Haynes and Franek, because Franek, it was supposed to be a 1 versus 2 type of bout, at least from last week, but then Michigan goes in and terrorizes at home Iowa and defeats them, winning consecutive bouts to start the dual meet. Not everybody's healthy, particularly Woods, when we talk about Beau Bartlett and everything in that matchup. But Franek also on the losing end, loses an ultimate tiebreaker at 157. And now he's going up against number 1 Levi Haines here. So Franek does move down a little bit. He's ranked, depending on where you look, he's ranked 5th according to Intermat. But kind of a veteran versus still Levi Haines is still frankly a newcomer. He's a true sophomore, but you're going up against a graduate level wrestler here in Franek. And this is where, again, Levi Haines hasn't exactly been over dominant, but he continues to just get win after win after win after win. I know he's dominating the lower competition, but we've seen him eke out some close ones, right? Michigan State, Chase Saldate, for example. So in this case here, Haynes and Franek, are you looking for a guaranteed Haynes victory, or does Franek give him a run for his money here with that number 1 spot?
Yeah, I don't think anything in the sport of wrestling is guaranteed.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't chalk anything up as automatic. It's just, and especially in a place like Carver Hawkeye. And listen, Franek is really good. When he's on top of his game, he is tough. I think Will Lewan did a nice job with Michigan last week of kind of slowing Franek down and being able to kind of make him wrestle Lewan's match. Levi is really good at, kind of forcing his pace on guys. I think this is another really good, regardless of the outcome, really good bout for Levi Haines to get at this stage of the season. Levi just is a guy that finds ways to win, no matter what it takes. If it's a reversal, an escape, a takedown that he needs at the end, he just seems to have that knack for finding a way to do it. I do think this will be a really competitive bout, and one that I'm guessing with a minute left, it's going to be anybody's game. It'll go either way. I just have a really hard time betting that Levi Haines won't be the one that comes up with the points in clutch time.
This is the only bout that is that has a prior matchup. Everybody else is new in this case, but 1 versus 2 now flipped. Beau Bartlett's number 1, Real Woods is number 2, because Woods got absolutely dominated a week ago. There were rumors that he was dealing with an illness. It might have been the flu. It might not have been, but he was not 100%. And you got to imagine, since he's had a week to fully recover now, that this was interesting because this was against Sergio Lemley, who is ranked, but I don't think he's actually the regular starter at 141 for Michigan. And Real Woods was embarrassed, and I thought he was pinned at the end, but essentially just blown out of the water here. So, what are you making of Real Woods coming into this one? Is he kind of coming in a little slow to this one, going up against Beau Bartlett this time around?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know if it was the flu or whatever was going on. He just did not look quite like himself. I also think Lemley did wrestle a terrific bout, and Lemley is really good as well. I mean, I think as he continues to develop, he's a guy. I'm not sure if he'll get on the podium this year, but I think he's a guy that has a pretty bright future with Michigan. But yeah, Woods did not look. I thought once he gave up the 6 points, that you'd kind of see him just really start to force the action and create some opportunities. And he really never got in on any kind of a clean shot after falling behind early. So, but listen, I think Woods and Bartlett, I mean, they know each other. Woods is really tough to score on normally. And I think that'll be the case again here on Friday night. And Beau Bartlett is exceptionally tough to score on. I mean, I do think this will be one of those bouts where points are tough to come by. These guys are both just really, really good. And again, good at staying in position, good at getting out of others' attacks. And, I think this will be a really good watch. I don't think it'll be a high-scoring affair, but I think it'll be an intense bout. And another one that I suspect will be decided in the final minute of either regulation or sometime in overtime.
Woods is 1-0 because they've only faced each other one time, and that decision was 4-1. As you mentioned, I'm anticipating low score just because it's not Aaron Brooks style-esque, right? The over-aggression. These guys are very smart, strategic. It's going to be a chess match, okay? And that's the way it was between Mendez and Bartlett. So I agree with you. I'm expecting more of the same here between those two wrestlers. And then at 125, and I'm eager to get your thoughts on this too, because I've discussed it over the past few days. It seems like there's a consensus here, but Braeden Davis got a scare. Got a real scare against Vinny Kilkiri. Kilkiri from the state of Pennsylvania has wrestled well for Ohio State young in his career. There was, early start of both newcomers to Big Ten wrestling and the NCAAs. And I think the refs got it wrong. That takedown should have been awarded to Kilkiri, and Davis gets his first loss of the season as a true freshman, but still undefeated. Moves up in the rankings too. Actually moves up in the intermat rankings to number 2 overall, interestingly enough. And Drake Ayala has been back and forth. He's been up at the top. Now he's down at number 7 with the current intermat rankings, but this is one, again, that's not a distant 2 versus 7. I feel like this one is really close here. But Ayala does have 3 losses on the season, so it understands why he's lower in the top 10 in this case. But I got to imagine, and Cael Sanderson nobody asked him about Braeden Davis, but Cael Sanderson also didn't say anything about him either. What is Davis's mindset when you win a match like that? I should say, when you win a bout like that, when you honestly you don't know if you deserve it. How do you kind of shake that off because of the what could have been? There's not exactly that motivation to really fix things out. I mean, there is, however, you didn't lose anything. It still counts as a W on the column.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think the mindset is still the same for Braeden Davis, and I think that's just kind of the mindset of Penn State is win or lose. You're going to take the concerns that you had in the match, and obviously, I think staying in better position at the end is something that they'll focus on this week. But 125 to me, Zach, is probably the weight class that I am most excited about seeing how it all plays out when we get to the Big Ten and then the NCAA championships. Because I really think Matt Ramos is, I think, rightfully number 1, and in my mind is the guy to beat. But I think there are legitimately 8 to 12 guys that would not be shocking to see them on top of the podium in Kansas City. And Braeden Davis is one of them. I mean, I think there's at least 7 or 8 guys that are certainly capable of beating Braeden Davis on a given day, but I think there's not anybody in the country that I'm looking at that weight class and saying, that's a long shot. Braden's not going to be able to win that one. So I think from a competitive standpoint, that's exciting. Yeah, Davis is 2 and Ayala is 7. This is a coin flip bout. Again, I think it would be a coin flip with anybody in the top 8 right now, 1 versus 8. Any 2 guys that you pair
exactly.
up,
it's really close.
Really close. And it's just, who hits it on that given day. But I think this is another really good opportunity for Braeden Davis to just grow. And I don't think he's caught up, and I know the coaches aren't caught up in winning or losing. Obviously, you want to win the bout. I'm not saying it's not a point of emphasis, but I'm telling you, if he loses this bout, there's nobody hanging their head. There's nobody, he's not as good as we thought he was, anything like that. It's okay. Now we have that feel under our belt. Now we know the adjustments we need to make. And it's going to be the same if he wins it. If he wins a hard-fought 6-5 bout, it's going to be the same thing. All right, this is where we needed to clean up. If you give up a takedown, this is what we need to do a little better at the edge of the mat, whatever the situations are. I just think this is a really good competitive look that Braeden Davis gets. And I think these are the opportunities you want at this stage of the season as you make that stretch run and try to get yourself as prepared as possible for postseason success.
Now, what's Iowa going to do at 174, 184? Because they have a bit of a dilemma. Gabe Arnold has wrestled very well. He's an undefeated freshman, but Patrick Kennedy looks like he's slotted in 174. So will we see Starocci versus Arnold, as there was a little bit of beef brewing just a year ago at this time? All that and much more still to come as we wrap up this dual meet preview here on Locked On Nittany Lions. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to all who celebrate from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is about scoring the best seat on the couch, grabbing your favorite football snacks, and placing some super bets. FanDuel has so many ways for you to end the season with a W, or 2, or 3, or even more. Not only can you bet on who will win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points will be scored, and so much more. If you like player props like I do, they've been posted for over a week now. Patrick Mahomes passing yards, Christian McCaffrey rushing yards, Travis Kelce receiving yards. You can bet all of that and more on FanDuel. New customers, when you join today, you will get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more is a winner. It's that easy. It's that simple. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And remember, if you're not already, become an everyday or subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Let us know down in the comments who you think is going to win this dual meet and what your score prediction might be and the matchups you're most excited for. In this final segment, Jeff, before we I want to table it for just a couple of minutes. 174, 184, what Iowa's going to do, and then the Gabe Arnold, Carter Starocci beef. Funny, a high school senior calling out one of the greatest wrestlers in college wrestling at the moment. Besides the point, this Penn State Iowa dual meet doesn't have the same, I guess, intensity as it's had in the past 5 years overall. Even though Penn State won, with a 9-point advantage just a season ago, but it was a matter of one bout, a couple of points on the scoreboard was the difference. And now this is because of the gambling allegations and everything else. Iowa's down 4 projected starters. Now they did get some guys out of the transfer portal to kind of mend that. But, for example, at heavyweight, Tony Cassiope's not wrestling. So we don't know who's going to wrestle at 285 officially for Greg Kirkfleet's opponent. But still, you would have a 1 versus 2 type of matchup here with Cassiope and Kirkfleet, and that would significantly alter the score. So when you look at this dual meet just in general, Jeff, what is your perception around this edition of Penn State versus Iowa?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Zach. I mean, first of all, I think the intensity will be there every bit
Regardless,
as
right.
much as it has been. I just think it's just the way those two programs are built. They'll bring the intensity no matter what. I'm not sure at the end of the day. I mean, heavyweight is the one spot. Yeah, without Cassiope, Iowa is clearly not as good at heavyweight. I'm not sure as it has all played out now. Like Sebrecht and Franek. I mean, I think Franek is probably as good or better than what they would have had there had everything remained as was. You know, if Kennedy was still at 65 and you had Nelson Brands at 74, I'm not sure that's ultimately better. I mean, I'm not sure that Iowa's team right now isn't better than it would have been projected with if the betting scandal had never happened. You know, Abe Assad, how much was he going to progress? How much of a factor would he be at 184? I don't know. I mean, that's probably the other weight where you feel if you're Iowa that, probably would be better there than what they are. But I'm not sure how significantly or substantially better. So listen, I think Iowa's got a very good team. I know they didn't wrestle well in that Michigan duel. And it feels like the world is caving in out there because they lost a dual meet. But this is still a really good team, has some really tough individuals. And listen, this is a program that is not used to losing, and they know they're up against it here against Penn State. I expect Iowa will come out firing on all cylinders and will look as good and as sharp as they have all season. Now, whether that's good enough and whether they can, I don't know how many bouts they can win in this dual meet, but I do think you're going to get a great effort from a really good team. As we've been talking about throughout the year, this Penn State team is exceptional. Like, I mean, again, this team still has a chance, even with Shane Van Ness out for the season with an injury. This team still has a chance to, I think, has a chance to put its stamp as clearly the best ever. Because, again, it could both equal Minnesota's 10 All-Americans, and then, again, we'll have a chance, I think, at the scoring record that Iowa set in 97.
Yeah, like we started off with the top of the show, that Penn State, I would say, is guaranteed 7 bouts, with ideally 8 or 9 they're favored in, and then 10. These are all toss-ups. So if all the toss-ups go into Iowa's favor, it's still 7-3, 6-4 in this case. But Penn State, clearly a much better team right now, and chasing truly some history as the best team in Penn State. Cael Sanderson's history, of course. Cael Sanderson, I mean, haven't talked about it just yet, but going for his 200th career win, and what a better way to do it than so Iowa's going to be motivated simply from the fact that they feel like their backs are up against the wall, just because of the way that it's not like that Michigan dual meet was 17-16 or something like that. The Wolverines started out hot and won how many consecutive bouts and looked dominant in that one. But then Penn State's got its own motivation as well. Again, Iowa still leads the all-time series. Penn State recently, again, it's been back and forth, but then Penn State turning the corner, having an advantage. And then this year, they are chasing so many parts of history with the milestone, and then trying to break the all-time scoring record at the NCAA championships when that one rolls around, which is held, in fact, by Iowa.
Yeah, and listen, so I think at the end of the day, I think there's going to be a lot of really good competitive bouts. And, Michigan won those close bouts with Iowa in that dual meet. Penn State won those close bouts with Ohio State in that dual meet. And, the dual scores sometimes can be a little misleading. Again, it was not a great day for Iowa. I'm not, there's no way you can paint it as such. But you're talking about a takedown here, and escape there, and all of a sudden, Iowa wins a close match, and we're talking about a little bit different perspective here. So, to me, again, Iowa is still dangerous. But listen, I also do think that there is a chance here that Penn State could run the table and win all 10 bouts. Again, I don't think there's a bout there that you're looking at from the Penn State side and saying, it's going to be really unlikely that our kid wins there. But, and from Iowa's perspective, I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to look at it and say they can't win any bout, but like 197 heavyweight, very unlikely. 74, very unlikely. So, they need to win all of the toss-ups and probably pull a surprise somewhere. Could that happen? Sure. It's college sports. It's wrestling. And we've seen some strange things happen to opponents in Carver Hawkeye. But going in, I think Penn State feels really good about its chances, really good about its lineup. And I think that the matchups favor Penn State very nicely. Again, in my mind, there's probably 6 weights where Penn State's a pretty solid favorite, 1 where Penn State's maybe a slight favorite, and 3 weights in my mind that are kind of toss-ups going in.
174, 184. You mentioned that you expect Patrick Kennedy to be 174. And I think everybody, this is more about Carter Starocci versus Gabe Arnold in the hypothetical. And of course, Bernie Truax just got pinned again, Rogotsky over from Ohio State. Wow, that one was surprising. But Carter Starocci, Arnold puts out on his social media that, just simply saying, overrated, I said what I said, referring to, didn't even name drop him, but definitely referring to Carter Starocci. And then, of course, they went back and forth on it. A high school wrestler at that given time talking smack against someone who, at the time didn't have this, but now in the present has 61 victories consecutively and multi-time NCAA champion. So this is, you are really talking a big game to call out Carter Starocci like that when you have not earned anything at the college level. But Arnold, I think, has backed it up to this point, 11-0 as a true freshman here. But he's probably going to wrestle at 184 since the matchup just is frankly a little. If you're in terms of a duel, maybe it changes going. And I don't know that it will. Honestly, I can't even say for the tournaments. Maybe they switch weight classes. That's probably not going to be the case here, but. At 184, we're going to see Truax and Arnold because it benefits the dual meet matchup more favorably for Iowa if they want to try to score points and win a team versus team type of situation. So we are going to be robbed of an opportunity to see somebody back up what they said on social media here between Starocci and Arnold.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see. I think Arnold is redshirting, and I'll be very surprised if you see him anywhere on Friday night in the lineup. He may be at the arena. We've heard through the grapevine that he may also have a bit of an injury that's kind of solidifying the decision to redshirt him. And listen, Aiden Riggins is a very good wrestler in his own right, and I think will be acquit himself well, albeit I think. He's up against Bernie Truax. But just from for the sake of promoting the sport, an Arnold Starocci matchup would be fun. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to see it sometime next year. I know Starocci has said this will be his final year, but he's kind of left the door open a crack for coming back for that opportunity to become a 5-time champion. And I think Arnold next year probably will be the guy at 74 for Iowa. So I'll be surprised if we see Gabe Arnold on Friday night, just from what we're hearing through the grapevine.
So, and this is the case where Patrick Kennedy, who's ranked inside the top 10, I feel like this is a huge distance. Starocci being number 1, and depending on what rankings you look at, because he's 5th in one place, 7th in another. It is a huge distance between Starocci and Kennedy. And Kennedy, I would describe as more of a defensive wrestler. So with this 3-point takedown, probably not going to favor him there. And 197. So you feel like this, yes, another case of Aaron Brooks, but against Zach Glazier, who is ranked, depending where you look, top 10, you would think this would be a better bout. But no, it's probably going to go heavily in the favor of Brooks in this case to wrap up the dual meet before heavyweight.
Yeah, it is. It is not often you get this late in the season and you have an undefeated wrestler who you are I just don't think we have much of a chance. And I'm not saying the Iowa program feels that way, but I think most fans, if you put truth serum in them, they're like, yeah, we love Glazier, and he has wrestled really, really well, still unbeaten on the season. But Aaron Brooks is just a different level kind of cat. And I think Aaron is probably wrestling as well right now as he is at any stage of his career. And that's saying something because he's wrestled some really spectacular bouts over the course of his career. But he is just so locked in right now, Zach, and he is just one of those guys that makes it look so much easier than it is. It is not as easy as Aaron Brooks makes it look. To just take guys down repeatedly and to turn them and to control them. But he is just, again, elite. And Glazier, I think, is very good, is wrestling exceptionally well. But, I'll be very surprised if Aaron Brooks doesn't win it comfortably. And I think, I think Penn State goes in expecting to get at least a bonus point there with a major decision.
Wrestling fans, I hope you enjoyed this one. Number 1, Penn State versus number 3, Iowa. That one takes place. You can watch it on the Big Ten Network, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to listen to the best call out there, it's at gopsusports.com. When Jeff takes to the mic all by himself, does it all by himself, start to finish. Coverage is going to begin at 8:45 Eastern Time in the night. And what more can you ask for? Another good Big Ten dual meet, even though some changes happened over here. It's not going to be as close of one, but like you said, Iowa's going to come out firing on all cylinders because this one means a lot to them, especially with the way they got embarrassed by Michigan. If you also want to keep up with Jeff's other work, you can visit 987thefox.com. Local sports talk in Happy Valley, 98.7 FM Fox Sports. Jeff, thanks for the time as always, and safe travels, of course, and can't wait to talk to you again very soon.
Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.